Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Brett Presley, I believe.
Yep.
We're doing real stories from actual working people affected by coronavirus. Obviously, there's plenty of people that are being affected health-wise. So we'll be talking to people who have unfortunately become ill, but we also want to talk to people that are economically being harmed. So you reached out to me. You're from Illinois. And like many people, you still have to work uh,
Yes.
in in a relatively busy place of business. Can you kind of describe for the audience what you do, and is your company, let's say, being flexible with this
Yeah. Yeah.
coronavirus?
Yeah, for sure. So I live in Bloomington. You could also throw Bloomington Normal in there as well because we also have the College of ISU. There are a lot of grocery stores in town, along with some of the bigger chains like Target and Walmart and Meijer. And so this all kind of, because there's a lot of competition, I should just say, in a very close proximity. So it all kind of started on Thursday the 12th, when everyone started kind of like picking up, and like this really kind of got the ball rolling at our store. And then Friday the 13th, I believe, is when Trump announced the, wasn't that the day that he declared like the national emergency?
Hmm.
Okay, so when that happened, everyone at the store, I wasn't there those 2 days, but I had friends texting me from work saying that there's something crazy going on. And normally here in the Midwest, it only gets kind of crazy during like summer and if there's about to be a big snow,
Hmm.
is when people start kind of not necessarily hoarding, but they kind of overshop just in being prepared. But this was something like we've never seen. And so people were overbuying and people were just starting to really freak out. And when it came down to it, people were suddenly working so many days in a row. Overtime was being spread through. And my company had not necessarily mandated, but they strongly suggested that certain items like toilet paper and other kind of necessities were going to be have a certain limit on them. And that was not enforced at all. And when we started working over the weekend, this past weekend, it was the worst I've ever seen. And I've been in the grocery business for about 15 years. And I will tell you that it was literally something out of a movie, a disaster movie. And people that I work with were being very concerned because we weren't hearing anything from the top about our safety, or even saying, like, thanks for working with this, because we were all looking at each other, worried, tired, and almost like, when are we going to get our groceries?
Hmm.
Because what really struck a lot of us, a few of my friends also watch Secular Talk a lot.
Hmm.
So when Kyle had mentioned, like, if there was going to be a massive shutdown and certain things would only be open, like the pharmacy and the grocery store, I could tell you that from what I saw and how many people are in close proximity, I mean, it was so busy. I would say it was like, Black Friday twice over in a grocery store.
And it's not like a lot of these grocery stores. It's not like people are quote unquote social distancing 6 feet away from each other. I mean, people are on top of
No,
each other.
no. And even trying to go to the restroom was terrible because I mean we have an adequate amount of restrooms, but when employees would try to go in there, the sanitary standards were so low because we didn't have people doing that because they were putting stuff on shelves. So even that was a disaster, trying to meet those things. And even the departments themselves, you were so busy trying to keep up with the volume that even standards in the departments weren't even being met because you couldn't do it. You didn't have any manpower, and there's nothing you could do. It's so crazy about the little things you need to wipe off and being aware of it. You couldn't do it.
And I assume that in the grocery business, obviously you might be stocking shelves, your colleagues might be stocking shelves. It's probably something you all do. Was your employer setting guidelines? Wash your hands before you stock the shelves.
They were strongly suggesting that, but in the mad rush of all of it, it was just fill, fill, fill. And when you're stocking shelves and stuff, and the people so close proximity, you're used to people reaching through you and around you and just grabbing, and that's just how it is. And it was a disaster. And all the people, the employees who I work with in close proximity, they're all kind of looking at each other like, someone here has this, or we're going to get it. And a few employees were just like, it's going to happen. Because if one person gets it, especially at the store, everyone knows it's very obvious that if one person gets it, it's done. And if
And,
one grocery,
obviously Chicago, a lot of people take transit. This isn't Chicago, but do most of
right?
the employees drive to work, or do some of you take the bus, or,
Oh, I majority just drive themselves
Okay.
for sure. And we were one of the only stores at the time that still had supplies, I should say, or food, because a lot of the stores were being shut down because they had just completely run out of stock.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people were waiting in line early in the morning for the store to get more supplies. And then as soon as we got it, I remember we had toilet paper delivered, and it wasn't a very big shipment, but someone had told me it had sold out in 37 seconds. And the other thing that bothered me was on Sunday, I was looking around and I barely saw any elderly people,
Mm-hmm.
which made me kind of think of, what are they going to do? And it got to the point where some of the perishable departments, like meat or seafood or something, with how many people go to the counter and whatnot, it should almost be roped off because of how many people go there, and try to not necessarily ration, but make sure people get enough to go around. And because people were buying like it was doomsday preppers.
Right.
And it's just crazy.
And, just to protect your job, we're not going to say which grocery store this is, but
Sure.
what did you or your coworkers express any concerns to managers or the bosses about?
Yes. And it was basically just kind of like, throw your hands up. We kind of don't know. It'll be fine. They'll get some stuff. It'll die down. But as far as I can tell from getting messages, it's it's not dying down, and I'm not surprised that it's not dying down. But we did get actually, I should backtrack a little bit. I didn't get a message through my managers or through like an employee email, but I did hear through word of mouth that we were supposed to tell HR if we were leaving the state, and that's about as far as it went. And they're still pushing, wash hands and do all the other, things. But now they're going to be closing the store at night as of last night, and they're going to be sanitizing the store, and our store hours have cut down to try to minimize, I guess, the spread, which is good. But that's as far as I've heard now. And I saw an article on Reddit that, and granted it's Reddit, but about hazard pay for people that work in the grocery store. And that's actually something that kind of caught my eye. Not that I'm looking for a giant pay boost for no reason, but I mean, it's there because everyone is horribly scared. And I have 2 small kids, so I'm really worried about catching something because it's coming. Because, for instance, I took my kids this past week to the pediatrician because our schools are shut down for 2 weeks.
Right.
And I took them to the pediatrician, and of course, as a parent, I asked, and we've got a doctor who's been around the block, and she said that she's positive it's here in their office, and we go to a pretty decent peds office, and she says they're not ready.
Wow. And I assume in the grocery business, it's not like you have a vibrant paid sick leave. If they shut down the store, you're not getting paid, I assume.
No. To my understanding right now, no, we're not getting shut down. Or we don't get any paid sick time off. I'm sure if I was to call and say, I don't feel good, I would get the time off. But any sick leave pay, to my knowledge right now, no. It's just, good luck.
Right. And, what I find interesting also is I'm not defending the grocery store at all, or the managers, but it is kind of, there's been very little guidance from the federal government. Just now, they're getting a little bit better with these daily press conferences, and Trump seems to be starting to pay attention. But, to your average manager, either at a restaurant or a grocery store, not to defend because it doesn't seem like they have a lot of empathy, but they probably don't really know what to tell you to do, or it's kind of the chaos of like trying to make sure you can manage the herd of people in there, and that often doesn't set up a great situation for let's take our time, social distancing, one person come up at a time. So it seems like even if managers don't give a damn about their workers, which is usually the case, they probably don't know what to do in this case either.
Right. And I mean, you could even look at things like, since I've been doing it for a while, I look like, we don't even have, I don't know this personally, but I look around, I don't even know if we have enough sanitized wipes to wipe down cart handles, door handles, just all this kind of stuff in general. And you just look at a grocery store and it's just like
shopping carts.
Yeah. Shopping carts, the freezer door handles, everything you touch. And if we don't have enough in the store, I don't know if we're getting enough for our supplies, which normally runs hit or miss. And I mean, that's not a knock on anybody, but.
And do you see in this, obviously on a day-to-day basis, mothers come in with their children, sometimes sitting in their cart. Is that still going on?
Yes, absolutely. And we see a lot of that. Everyone and anyone's coming in. I see multiple people, the same people in a day coming in to get multiple things. And it's not just, one or two items, of course. I'm seeing carts and carts of things going on. And the other thing that usually happens too is we're very used to the beginning of the month with, food stamps. And we see that, I believe, on the 1st and 15th, it's broken up for the grocery business to kind of not overwhelm us, I believe is the case. And, someone can quote me on that. But it's looking very desperate, and we're not used to our shelves being so low, and it looks frightening. And in my opinion, I don't know what the solution is, but if one grocery store goes down, granted, we do have a lot in proximity, but there needs to be some kind of plan, because even if we do like online shopping and people can maybe make some kind of an order and they pick up that order and we kind of stop some kind of a flow from coming in, or, have certain mandated hours for elderly, which I think is a good idea, because the amount of people that were in there, they can't handle that. There's no way.
But also the problem with online shopping now is you got to get a certain window of time that they will deliver.
Sure.
And, my girlfriend and I looked for online delivery, and there's no times available, probably because there's a million people.
Stopped doing deliveries, and it's just pick up only, which is great. And even and I understand the conundrum with it, and it's a hard problem to solve, but I just feel like, the employees feel just kind of very alone, and we feel very vulnerable. But again, I also understand that there's no real solution for us, but we feel like we're just kind of on the front line, just hoping we don't get it and doing our best to try to combat it, because we do want to help feed people, and we want to make sure that, when I see kids there, I want to make sure they have their milk, their toilet paper, all the necessities, because this weekend when we sold out of toilet paper, it got to the point where people were buying napkins and, just anything to survive. And it's not funny, but it's kind of interesting to see how people's instinct kicks in. It's like, well, fine, toilet paper, fine, napkins, the hell with it, napkins. Mm-hmm. And so they're buying any and everything, and it feels so much more real when I'm seeing people buy it compared to watching it on the news.
And I'd like to ask, there's different proposals going around right now. The Democrats, Kamala Harris was talking about $500
I saw that.
For the month, which is laughable. Trump, I think, is talking about $1,000, which
wasn't Romney's better.
I think Romney's was about $1,000, maybe a little more. Bernie, of course, he's proposing $2,000 a month. But for you, I don't know how many expenses you have, but we're not talking about $1,000 for you. We're not talking about $1,000 on top of your paid sick leave. So is $1,000 a month? Let's say this goes on for 2 months, 3 months. Is that enough to pay 2 small kids, rent or mortgage?
No, it would be cutting it close, because I live in a college town, so my rent's a little high. It's going to be cutting it close, I have to say, but it'd be better than anything better than $500 a month for sure. But I'm still waiting to see, because my wife, she works for an optical company, and they just kind of got the suggestion, I think yesterday, that they should shut down, as a suggestion, because I heard that some dentist offices now are closing. But they're going to wait for, I think, the government to kind of step in and say, we need you to shut down. But it's getting close, and I feel like, again, I feel like a lot of people are. What's funny, real quick, is I actually had some people at the store ask what was going on. And I kind of felt like that made me feel bad for them, that they didn't understand what was going on. I'm like, are you serious? Which made me feel bad for uninformed people. But real quick, going back to the other thing is, this is becoming more and more real, and it's becoming more and more scary. And I think she's going to be okay with her job. Her company is a smaller company, so they do a good job of taking care of their people, and their CEO is a very understanding person. So we're lucky with that, but the people that aren't lucky with that, I feel horrible for. Because I have a friend who works for, he manufactures cars, and he kind of doesn't know what's going to happen. So we were talking about that earlier, about the, proposed, universal income and what he's going to do. And he's already kind of starting to get things together today to sell. And he doesn't know if he's going to be able to sell them because people might not have the money to buy what he's selling.
Right.
So, and he's worried about groceries, and that's his main concern right now. Because do you know if Italy or anybody else is putting a freeze on utility costs or anything like that, or is that just not being happened right now? Because I know they did mortgages.
I think so. Can't say it for sure, but I thought I heard that.
Sure.
And the audience, obviously, let's focus on, you're in Illinois, which
Sure.
insanely just held elections yesterday in person. So
Yes.
I'm not a doctor, but I would assume you might see an increase in Illinois, Arizona, Florida, which had people going in. It was all over Twitter, people waiting
Yes.
in close proximity for hours. So Illinois in particular might have an uptick in cases, being that you're a governor who, by the way, endorsed Joe Biden, no connection,
No, it's horrible.
decided to continue on with these elections.
Yeah, I had a lot of friends yesterday. I was lucky enough to go. My voting station is right down the road from me. I went and there was no one there. I voted for Sanders very quickly. Came back home, but I was very afraid to go out. I had like wipes with me for the door handles and the whole 9 yards. But a lot of my friends yesterday closer to Chicago were absolutely terrified to go out. And they were also Sanders supporters, but a lot of them roughed it out to vote for Sanders because it was so important. And a lot of them were absolutely disgusted that JB voted or endorsed Biden. And Tom Perez also, they were absolutely disgusted that he kept the election going because of everything that's been going on in Illinois. Because everyone right now, there have been no cases in Bloomington. There was a couple that was on their way back from the cruise that was quarantined, but they were stopped in Georgia from coming back to Bloomington, and they were quarantined again. But we've already had a case that was about 45 minutes away in Peoria moving its way here. And I think that a lot of people are naive about it until it actually gets into your city. And so like a lot of people here that I know either are super concerned about it or they're just like, well, it's not here. And it's like, we'll be fine. I'm like, you don't live in a bubble. So a lot of those people aren't taking it too seriously. But I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place. But
That's all right.
But yeah, the Illinois elections yesterday were garbage. And Tom Perez needs to resign. And it was awful.
I think it was like a 28 or almost 30% drop from 2016.
Yeah, it was no, it was gross. And it was awful.
What does it say to you? I mean, I'm just going to keep it real. Doesn't look good for Bernie. What does it say to you that so many people in states like Illinois are voting for the guy whose policies basically are not him only, but his party and that ideology? Those policies are why all these gaping holes exist. Why we don't have paid sick leave. Why we don't have universal health care. That a lot of people are starting to realize, like, oh, this is showing all these things we don't have. What does it say that they're voting for the guy representing that, basically?
I agree with you, and I would say that like maybe not enough people watched the last debate where Joe Biden made the case for single payer when he brought up the coronavirus in Italy, and then Bernie caught him on it. I think that all of this shows in some degree how much Bernie Sanders' plan really would help everybody, because even Republicans are bringing up his policies. It's funny how socialism becomes so quickly implemented when there's a giant, issue and problem, and they need to solve it very quickly. I will never understand Biden's presence in anything. And a lot of my friends that I try to convince, maybe not try to convince, but I ask them why they're voting for Biden, and I can never get a straight answer on his policies. I just get some platitudes about, well, Obama, and it's like, okay, that's great, but what about him, and what is he going to do for you to make your life better? What about that? And I never get a straight answer. And then when I bring up Bernie, it's never just about Bernie. That's beyond that. His policies is what's important, and I can never get a straight answer on Biden from anyone. And a lot of the stuff he's going to come do. And I got into a few arguments last night about Biden and, the way he went through Illinois and he won. And I was upset about it, but I wasn't angry. But I really think that I really like what what Kyle from Secular Talk had to say about being called Bloody Monday, because with all the endorsements and stuff, and then Pritzker at the last minute endorsing Biden for no real reason, but Pritzker's a story for a different day. But I think that in Illinois,
billionaire governor, if people don't know.
Hiding money all over, and I remember when I voted for him, I hated it, but what else am I going to do? Because Illinois has a lot of issues, but Biden, I think we're going to get 4 more years of Trump, unfortunately, because of that. But I would have loved Sanders, and I think that Sanders would have come in and done a really good job. Because what has Biden even said about the coronavirus that has been worth a damn? I mean, you've seen Bernie all over the place talking about this and having great ideas.
I think that Biden showed the game during the debate. He said, this is an emergency, which he said will pay for everything, which by admission, I guess you don't think it's an emergency when people are rationing insulin. I guess you don't think it's an emergency when people are dying in waiting rooms because they can't afford it. Because the day-to-day emergency is what Bernie's talking about, but it's really about, it's not about what, see, Biden, all these politicians other than Bernie, it's really not them making these decisions. It's what their donors will allow, right?
Right.
So their donors are fine with Joe Biden being strong against the NRA and gun control, because that's not going to affect their gravy train. Those cultural issues, great. But Medicare for all, well, how are we going to pay for it? Well, they just snapped their fingers and put $1.5 trillion to industry. There was no questions how you're going to pay for that. So I think a lot of these questions are going to continue, and these issues are starting to become more outspoken, and more visible. But I appreciate you reaching out. We'll keep in touch, because I don't think, I mean, what if the grocery store is closed? I mean, they're talking about immediate funding, but like you said, it's going to be tight for you and your wife and 2 small kids. And for other people, it will go beyond tight. It won't be enough. So we'll definitely keep in touch.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jordan.
Thanks, man. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com, where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.